on to control.
From this spot, any potential thief could see Mannering leaving his car. The house would then be unattended. The Colonel kept no staff after 6 in the evening, and the dining room windows had no special locks. The break-in could not have been easier. It was not even necessary to take the glass. Right. The thief knew what he wanted. He took only one painting. Two gentlemen standing by the 18th century painter Zoffany.
Who?
Zoffany.
How'd you spell it?
Z-O-F-F-A-M-Y. Right little old rubbish it is.
Do you want me to put that down?
What's that,
Morning. My name's Mitchum. Chief Inspector Mitchum. Bob Mitchum, in fact, but there's no connection. No connection. I'm from the Arts and Crafts Department at Scotland Yard, and I hear you're the one who got there first.
Yes, that's right, sir.
And your lovely wife is typing the report. How do you do, Mrs. Parkin?
How do you do, sir?
Lovely. Lovely. Now, first things first, Parkin, have you got such a thing as a drink? I'm always on the trot, but 2 hours with that poor old nut Mannering has drained me. Wouldn't you say I've been drained, Bradley?
Yes.
Drained. What's this, Parkin? An opinion in a report. There might have been, there may be, you don't think. What are you, a fortune teller, Parkin? Some sort of a mind reader?
Beer's all I've got, sir.
Yes, that'll do fine, lad. That's just the job.
So that's a draft report for my own benefit. Now, would you like a drink, sir, or would you like to go on with the work?
A drink, please, Parkin. And there's no need to get uptight about little criticism. What I want to know is, did the gardener put his thumping great boots on that patch of wattle before they discovered the picture was missing? Did 10 light, 10-fingered reporters come round the house, leaving their dirty fingerprints all over the furniture? Why did the fellow come in through the window when the whole county knows that the front door is always on the latch? I want you to tell me these things, Parkin, because I can't get rhyme nor reason out of that poor daft old colonel up the road.
Yes, sir. Well, there's a special way of handling the Colonel. I've had to do it before.
What for?
All cricket matches and such.
Cricket. Yes, they would play cricket round. Oh, thank you, my dear.
I suggest we let Parkin handle the Colonel, sir, since he knows his ways.
Yes?
And that we find you somewhere to stay for the night.
Right. Thank you. Cheers. Very good. Where?
There's Mrs. Meredith up at Rawley.
Yeah, she hasn't got a licence.
There's the King's Arms.
What's the food like there?
Frozen scampi and such with fancy French names.
It's a bit expensive.
Then I should think it'll suit me down to the ground. I'll make it my headquarters. You better ring your chief inspector and tell him where I'm staying.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps he can get something off the bill. Oh, and Parkin, anything you think of, just jot it down, old lad. But don't try and solve this all on your own. We are supposed to be working as a team. Thank you, Mrs. Parkin. It was nice meeting you. Come on, Radley.
Cocky coppers from the smoke. Who does he think we are?
I rather liked him.
Picking holes in my report.
Well, you did rather ask for it, all those opinions.
I'm from the Arts and Crafts Department. And don't go trying to solve it all on your own, Parkin. After all, we're supposed to be working as a team.
You'll find all the books that mention Zoffany there. We've had a couple of people interested since the news got out.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Summers. Do you usually get a demand for these sort of books?
Oh, no. I should say they're taken out about 10 times a year.
Mr. Summers, there's a plate missing from this book, 18th Century Painters, Volume 2. Now, would you have a record of when this book was damaged?
I can tell you that, Parkin, because I've already asked. It was sometime in the spring of '65. When you've looked, you'll find that that's the only plate missing in the whole book. You really are a one-man band, aren't you, Parkin? I ask you to keep it the Colonel, and the next thing I know, you're up to your eyeballs doing my job. Don't you trust me?
Well, I wanted to find out something about the painting, sir.
Well, I suggested you get back to the Colonel. and find out if he remembers who his house guests were in April and May 1965. He or she could have come down here, checked out that painting, and taken this plate for future reference.
Right, sir. May I ask a question, sir?
What is it, Parkin?
Well, the Colonel's picture was insured, was it?
Yes, it was last revalued in 1945 for £15,000. It'll be worth, 5 times that amount now.
Yes, sir. Well, knowing the Colonel, I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't kept the payments up.
Yes, well, he'll get his 15,000. Whether he'll get his picture back, I don't know. One of the reasons that I've found fame and fortune in this game, Parkin, is because sometimes the thieves sell the pictures back to the insurance companies, rather than risk exporting them to some private buyer. And when they do that, I get the credit for finding them behind a whelk stall in Southend. However, since this picture is grossly underinsured, the chances of that happening are a bit remote, which means that we've got to catch them and get the picture back before they leave the country, which is why I want you to keep it the Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Parkin, just do as you're told, will you? Hmm?
Mr. Parkin to see you, sir.
Yes, come in, come in. Sit down, Parkin. Have a drink.
Oh, no, thank you, sir.
I've had the most ghastly morning with an inspector from London. Ghastly. I think he suspects I've stolen the painting myself. It was great-grandfather's, you know. He kept on asking me questions. What I want you to do, Parkin, is to find the picture for me. I'm very fond of it. I don't think that chap from London knows what he's doing.
Well, he's an expert, sir.
He's too clever by half. And he said he came from the Arts and Crafts Department.
I was joking, sir. He's actually from the special branch concerned with the recovery of stolen paintings.
Sounds as if he did raffia work. No, I do some myself. I talked to him about it, but he didn't seem at all interested. As for his friend, Mr. Radley, he doesn't do raffia work either.
No, sir.
Find that picture for me, my dear fellow. I really am awfully fond of it.
Well, I'll try, sir, but I will need your cooperation.
I'm sure you can find it, Parkin. Some poor fella took a liking to it, I suppose. They kept on going on about its price and how important that was. They really were most extraordinary.
Yes, sir. Well, Inspector Mitchum has a theory, sir, that the thief may well have been a guest here sometime in the past. He appears to be well acquainted with the inside of your house, sir.
They kept on going on about insurance. I don't want the insurance. I want the picture back.
Yes, sir. Well, I was wondering if you can remember any guests that were here in the spring of 1965.
What?
Guests, sir, in the spring of 65.
Thank you, sir. Scotland Yard on the line, sir.
Oh, thank you.
These brokers seem to have some sort of bite, sir.
Huh? Cox? Yes. Where? How long have they given you? All right, well, get a photostat and send the letter over to my office. They'll know what to do with it. Get them to photoprint a copy and wire it to me up here, all right? Oh, it is it? Oh. The thief has written a letter. He's prepared to part with the painting for £50,000, which is well below the market value, but the insurance doesn't half cover it. So, unless the Colonel is prepared to cough up the rest, it looks as though he's going to lose it. I better give him a ring.
Unless we catch them, sir.
That's right, love. Unless we catch them. Give me a line, please. You know, the odd thing is, that the letter was handwritten. I have a nasty feeling that we're dealing with amateurs, Bradley.
Bradley, sir.
I hate amateurs, whether they're villains or detectives.
The thief wants £50,000, sir.
It's ransom money, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's what the bandits did up in the Cooge. Used to hold people to ransom. And in those days, there was no insurance. I remember once the 19th, or the 17th, no, the 19th, pawned some polo trophies to get one of their lieutenants back. Soon afterwards, he was killed. So they made it a rule never to do that sort of thing again.
Thank you, sir.
Quite right, too. Exchanging prisoners is one thing, but buying them back is another.
Colonel, the person who stole your painting, as I've already told you, we have a theory that he may well have been a guest here sometime in the past. Now, we think about 5 years ago in the spring.
Hey,
5 years ago, sir.
when was that?
In the spring.
In the spring. Oh, was that the spring when Oxford, or was it Cambridge, won in record time? Over there, page 87. Oh, thank you, Mrs. What?
Watson, sir.
What? Oh, thank you.
5 years ago, sir, Oxford won by 3.5 lengths. The stroke was Jerome, an American of Yale and Exeter.
Oh, yes, I remember. We all watched it on the television.
We all, sir?
My granddaughter, Sheila, and some other friends. They came up for the weekend. All that summer, they came up for the weekend. They were very noisy, lot. Still, it was good to see the place come alive again. She married an insurance broker.
An insurance broker?
Yes, in shipping. But at that time, when she was noisy, you know, she ran around the house naked.
It was a hot summer, sir, I recall.
The fruit was remarkable that year. The tomatoes came early, and so did the cherries. Oh, my God, we didn't know what to do with the cherries. And then Mrs. Pumphrey fell ill. I thought it was the heat, but it turned out it wasn't. It was coronary thrombosis. Mrs. Pumphrey was my housekeeper, you know. She used to know the names of all the young people. They were very fond of her. I was too when she was younger. I remember once I took her to Goodwood. I shouldn't have done it, but I did.
Your granddaughter, sir, I think, may well be able to help us.
Mrs. Pumphrey got over it and went to live in America. My granddaughter, you know, lives there too. Seattle. I've got a letter from her somewhere in that box over there. A lot of it appertains to the planting of bulbs. Mrs. Pumphrey was very interested in them.
Would Mrs. Pumphrey have kept a record of guests, sir?
No.
Would Mrs. Pumphrey have kept a record, sir, of guests?
Date the 14th. Postmark Andover, handwritten.
Because he's somewhere where there's no typewriter. Handwriting's very shaky. A boat?
Well, you're nearly right, but not quite. I'd say he was on a train going south. Andover's on the main line to Southampton, isn't it?
Yes, sir, but why send the letter?
Because he's had to change his plans. Now, why has he had to change his plans? Well, the only reason I can think is because he's found out that the Colonel only had that picture insured for a quarter of its value. And he knows he can't afford to buy it back. So he's got to find a buyer, I'd get that painting out of the country.
So, but why send the letter?
In the hope that we'll believe that he's keeping it here while Mannering tries to raise the money. He's an amateur, all right. Yeah, this water's very good.
Mrs. Pumphrey used to call the cupboard in the kitchen her office. I don't know why. But that's where she kept the ration cards. Yes, during the war.
There's a lot of stuff here, sir.
Good heavens, there's my driving licence. Oh.
Ration cards, identity paper. Some of this stuff should be in a museum, sir. What to do with a gas mask? Instructions on evacuees. You want evacuees here, sir?
Yes, they were as noisy as Sheila's friend. Ah, I've been looking for that. Air Raid Precautions Manual 1. There's some very good hints in it about bushfires. We get a lot of them round here in the summer.
Ah, these are the kitchen house books, sir.
There should be a companion volume to this. ARP Manual 2. I like to keep things together.
Could you tell me a little bit more about Sheila's friends, sir?
When they were evacuated?
Oh, no. When they're older. The ones that came the year of the boat race.
What boat race?
When Jerome was stroke.
Oh, the evacuees. They ate what they were given and were happy. But Sheila and a young man were always whining and dining around the countryside. They seemed to have unlimited credit. No nerves. Checks were always bouncing. Whatever it was, they never stayed at home for a decent dinner. And Mrs. Pumphrey was a very good cook, you know. Ah, there it is. ARP Manual 2. Yes, there's some very good hints in it about bush fires.
Yes, sir. We get a lot of them round here in the summer.
Yes.
You never know where you are with amateurs. They're as likely to pick a picture off a gallery wall with 6 guards watching, or again, they're likely to do a job like this one.
Excuse me, sir. Your call to Paris.
Oh, thank you. Is it this one?
No, sir, that one.
I'd rather deal with professionals any time. Écoute, Malley?
There's no date, sir. It just says things like Friday Cricket Club Committee, Tuesday go to the fruit market, Thursday get the rooms ready for Mr. Harry, Miss Sheila, Master Terence.
There you are. You've got it.
I got what, sir?
The names.
Sir, but there are hundreds of names here. Mr. Terence, Mr. Philip, Miss Connie, Miss Angela, get the room ready for Miss Sheila, the top room ready for Mr. George, all on Thursdays and Fridays. But you see, there's no date, sir, never mind the year.
Well, you can tell whether it's summer or winter. I never go to club meetings in the winter. And you can tell by the fruit we buy and the flowers.
Yes, sir, but sometimes fruit's early and flowers are late.
Not the bulbs, dear boy. They go into the day. Unless there's a frost. And then Mrs. Pumphrey would write down the word, frost. Mrs. Pumphrey was very meticulous, I remember.
Yes, sir, well, what bulbs go in the first 3 weeks of April?
I couldn't tell you about bulbs. I always thought they were bore.
Would Mrs. Pumphrey have had a book on bulbs?
Of course she had a book on bulbs. You think she carried it all in her head?
Would you know where it is, sir?
A bulb book? It's up there.
Get this off to the Southampton police and this to the customs duty officer, South Coast. And you better photoprint that letter and wire it to Malley in Paris just for the look of the thing. And find out what Parkin is doing, if he's doing anything at all.
Yes.
Men are in here. Parkin? Parkin! Ooh. No, he's not here. No idea where he is.
Yes, Mr. Parkin, I'll do that at once.
Thank you, Mr. Cornwall.
Where have you been?
Well, I've been making some inquiries, sir.
I thought I told you to stay with the Colonel.
Well, sir, I got as much out of him as I could.
Well, couldn't you pick up the phone and let me know?
Well, I had some checking to do, sir.
All right, Parkin, get on with it. Get on with it.
Well, sir, I tracked down the former housekeeper's kitchen notebooks, and I found out that a Master Henry, a Master Timothy, and a Master John were the only 3 guests there in the April of 1965.
And how do you work that out?
Well, it's the bulbs, sir. It's when you plant the bulbs.
And how do we get their surnames?
Well, they were friends of his granddaughter, Sheila.
And her address?
Last heard of, she was living in America.
Oh.
But I've been inquiring in the shops around here because these guests, as I understood it, were forever paying for things by cheque. Now, a Timothy Whitehead cashed cheques in a chemist and in a laundry in Ormsforth, giving a London address but Mannering as a reference. He also cashed 2 cheques in the Coach and Horses for meals there. They were quite heavy, one for £12, one for £17.
Must have been a party.
Yes, sir, and I'll lay you on to the 8 here more than once.
Excuse me, sir. These are the books you asked for, Mr. Parkin.
Thank you.
What did you say his name was? Whitehead?
Timothy Whitehead.
8. There we are. Yes, look. Timothy Whitehead cashed a cheque here on April the 5th. And on April the 12th, a John Pointing, who gives his address as Mannering's house, cashed 2 cheques here. Whitehead and Pointing.
John Pointing. 11th of April, 1965. Absolutely splendid, John Pointing. And again here, 19th of April, simply marvellous, J.P. There, no.
They're identical. Well, well. Bradley, get on to my office at the yard, see if they can pick up this chap Pointing.
Yes, sir.
Well, Parkin, how would you and your wife like to have dinner with me tonight,
Oh, yes, thank you, sir.
I think you know that you've deserved it. Waiter,
Yes, sir.
give me another bottle of that stuff that I was having at lunchtime. I can't remember the name.